Hello, I am Gary Supreme, here for Sacktown Slam. And I am here to talk today about Wrestlemania. Now, Wrestlemania has definitely gone through its, how can I say this? It's tug of war with money and profiteering, and boy, it definitely lost on the money and the profiteering this year. I honestly believe that what is going on this year is, personally, we're just not seeing as much on the monetary issues here for WrestleMania. I mean, according to Dave Meltzer, they lost 15 million in ticket sales. 15 million. And potentially 4 million in merchandise sales. That's a lot. And, that's definitely a kick in the teeth I don't think Vince wanted to take. But he did it because, in his mind, the show must go on. So that is definitely what his idea is we're not going to halt, we're not going to have an off season, which I'll get to in a moment as far as my idea on that. And we're not going to, give these guys more money because of this, that, and the other thing. We're going to do this now. So, all that aside, that definitely makes things difficult to say. Another thing that they've been working on for a long time is certain storylines that may very well get cut from the pay-per-view because they are not going to do an 8-hour, and I said this in my last video, they're not going to do an 8-hour WrestleMania, with no people. No people equals no reaction equals no pop equals no point. So, I think that cutting matches is probably the way to go if you're just going to force the issue with it being at the Performance Center. Having some of these matches on Raw or SmackDown, I think, would be just fine. You don't need to load up a card, although it's funny that I hear these people talking about, have WWE in Saudi Arabia, or have WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. No, because Saudi Arabia is getting just as hammered with this as we are, if not worse. So, that's not an option. I mean, they're lucky they got out of Saudi Arabia when they did, because that was right around the time when this started, vroom, vroom, What else is there to say on that? But we can't really change the narratives here. They just are. And you look at guys like Goldberg. Do you really think Goldberg wants to wrestle in an empty arena show? Probably not. And when he got paid to do WrestleMania, he probably paid himself to do, or agreed to it, thinking he was going to do it in front of a giant crowd, and now he's doing it in front of nobody. And it makes me wonder, are they going to change certain things? Because Goldberg's 53 and retired and doesn't do jack. So I'm sure they can have him off to drop the title anytime they want. Lesnar, same thing. It's like Dana White still doing fights in empty arenas. Sooner or later, that's going to affect your upside of your income. And because you're still having to award these people money while making no money from fan attendance. See, that doesn't work. So, and when these guys ask for their WrestleMania payouts, yeah, you kind of see where this is going here. So, I think that, you know, a lot of matches will probably get dropped from this year's WrestleMania. Like your Jobber Memorial Battle Royals, male and female, goodbye. I do not see those happening this year. And thankfully, they're not. You know, I can't confirm that. I have no source to confirm that. But what I will say is the likelihood of them doing that, if they do plan on trimming the fat on the show, that is fat that can be trimmed. Most definitely. Another thing I heard, and this is from, I believe Wrestlemania talked about this, and this was just today, which is today's the 18th. Basically what Wrestlemania talked about was that there's a match in jeopardy between Heavy Machinery and Mandy versus Ziggler, Rude, and Sonya Deville, which that was meant to be a 6-man match at WrestleMania. But now that match is in jeopardy. But again, you know, it doesn't really have to be in jeopardy. You could just put it on Raw or SmackDown. Now, I did hear one guy on Booker T's podcast talk about, oh, it's time to call up Fox. We should really talk to Fox and get a better production. Well, here's the thing. You could. And you could even get WrestleMania on TV, I guess. But all in all, it doesn't really change much. So, and it doesn't change the overall problem that wrestling in general has, or the overall problem, and that's the coronavirus. There's nothing that can be done about that until it subsides and it gets warmer outside. So, I mean, until flu season's over, I don't, and until, you know, we get more tests and all of this and that, and people stop, you know, going outside and quarantine themselves for at least 2 weeks, what are you going to do? It's like there was legitimately a Simpsons episode about this back in 94. Again, Simpsons, they like psychics, man. It's like ESP, because this is exactly what's happening right now worldwide. Like, seriously. Anyway, other things that are probably going to get trimmed from WrestleMania. I mean, there has been no word on TakeOver yet. Now, again, as of this taping, I haven't seen NXT. I have not seen Dynamite, so I would not know what is happening. So, you know, if TakeOver is going to happen, then my assumption is it will happen in an empty arena. Now, financially, it literally, and again, these guys that do TakeOver, they're usually very friendly at access, which will not be happening this year. Which, I think there's like 9-10 different indie promotions. Or 9 or 10. Looking at this right now. Oh no, there's more than 9 or 10, alright. Okay, let's just, jeez. Let's go on the small side and say like 30. That will probably have to cancel their shows or will not be able to make that show because it was based around Wrestlemania, and people love going to wrestling shows that week of Wrestlemania. And as you all know, WrestleMania is not happening in the form that normally it would happen in. It's being done at the Performance Center, and, it is what it is. But I just... Now, I think the biggest thing is you go over the WrestleMania card. How many of these matches are still going to happen? I mean, Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch. That's indefinite, still going to happen because they already built the Elimination Chamber around it and everything. So that's happening. Brock and Drew, still happening. I would say Cena and Bray Wyatt, still happening because they cut that promo on Friday night on SmackDown, which was actually decent, except for one thing. All the people Cena mentioned that he lost to was way after he was a made man in WWE. So, I mean, yeah, the people he named were pretty prolific names. I mean, when you had Undertaker and Randy Orton and Edge and Rob Van Dam and the fact that he brought up Rob Van Dam is kind of funny considering he works for Impact. But obviously they don't foresee them as a threat, or they don't see them as a threat, and they're the ones out there throwing around cease and desist at the Super Kick party, but they want to mention Rob Van Dam on live television. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's very scandalous. But anyway, the promo itself was pretty good, though. I just think that the people he named, like I said, it was after he was a made man. So your relevance was never shaken by these losses because you were already relevant to a point of never being able to be removed from WWE's DNA. Bray was much different back in, 2014. It was a very different universe for him back then. And he could have been a made man if he had beaten Cena back then. So, that's another match that I don't think would get pulled from the card. Goldberg and Roman's not getting pulled. They're just going to get that over with just to get it over with. Just because they're still getting trolled about that. About what happened in Saudi Arabia. Because nobody cares. They just want that thing off Goldberg. But I can tell you this. I can tell you one thing that's going to be a great thing about this happening with no one around. When they give, what is it? Man, this guy's been coronated more than Corbin. But when they give Roman Reigns his 5th, title coronation, there will be no one there to boo him. So, I guess something. And the same thing goes with Goldberg. When he comes out, there will be no one there to boo him. Not that I think he cares, but go figure. And, the matches I feel the worst about are, Bayley's match. It is a 6-pack challenge, which I don't even understand why. Because you've got a 6-pack challenge. The 6th woman's a mystery. Yeah, you've incessantly shown that Nia Jax has been saying, "Oh, I want to come back, I want to come back, me. First of all, let me just shake this up for you. Number one, Nia Jax deserves a title shot as much as I deserve a title shot. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I didn't earn a WWE title shot, and neither did she. So if they just wantonly throw her in there because they have no other women on SmackDown to throw in there, what does the title really mean? So, my hope is that this is Bianca. And if Bianca Belair just goes in there and just dominates and takes the title at WrestleMania, even if it's in front of no crowd, good for her. You know, I would be very happy if that happened. But I would not expect it. I expect for that sixth person, it's going to be, I'm not like, you know, a song which literally is an earworm, and I can't get it out of my mind now. But yeah, then we've got another interesting scenario with tag titles. What the hell do you do with Miz and Morrison? I mean, usually they don't care about the tag titles anyway, but you literally built them on what was a fairly decent, I mean, and I don't care about the haters out there saying, "Oh, this sucks. Oh, it was boring. Boring. Okay, Stone Cold, we heard you. I thought the match was alright. I thought it was better than the women's match. No offense to the women, but A, that was obvious that Shayna Baszler was going to win, and B, no one even put up a fight except for, kinda Asuka. So, no, I thought the tag team match was great. Do I think it needed to be broadcast again on Monday Night Raw? No, I don't. Or Friday Night SmackDown last Friday? No, absolutely not. And if WWE begins to, how can I put this, degrade themselves in that way through this pandemic, they're going to lose a lot of viewers they may not get back. So, if you're gonna, go all balls to the walls with it, WWE, have wrestlers wrestle. We don't want to see repeats of matches we can just go on the network and watch. Wrestle. Because if you're not gonna wrestle, don't put your program on. From what I'm hearing, that's NXT's going to be NXT's MO the next couple weeks. They're not even going to have any wrestling matches. Which, why? Then why even put NXT on? And I don't mean that to be insulting to NXT. I just mean that as a case in point. You're paying these people to host a live show full of fluff. If I worked for the WWE, I'm like, okay, we'll tape 2 fluff shows a week. If things change, then we'll leave off 1 fluff show and go live with the next one with an audience. But, forgive me for thinking outside the box. It's not a good idea to be around a lot of people right now, and I get that. But how much of this are fans going to take? Because fans, at this point, the video game surge has come, and the streaming surge has come. Those two have profited so much in the last 2 weeks, it's insane. But this is... I mean... Another point and I'll make this the last point before I end this video, because there's really not a whole lot to talk about until I know what's going to happen with Dynamite, because NXT is, from what I have been hearing, isn't going to be anything but fluff. Dynamite could be all we have for real wrestling content, and then Raw and SmackDown. So, I mean, they may completely just put off TakeOver for another time. I'd be okay with that, because TakeOver is always better than WrestleMania anyway. And I would rather have a TakeOver with people and reactions and people to feed off of than a garbage, no audience TakeOver. I understand that safety is a thing. I don't think I haven't, seen past that, because I haven't. But there comes a point in entertainment where you are somewhat doing the antithesis of the point of what you're trying to do. And what I mean is that when you're in the entertainment field, you're supposed to get a pop from the people in the audience. When you have no audience, that becomes a difficult thing to believe that everything you're doing is correct. I mean, they went to commercial on SmackDown last Friday, and the women just stopped wrestling and started joking around with each other, and it was caught on camera. I mean, they're busted. So, I don't know how long this lasts. I don't know, how much of this we're going to have to put up with. But if AEW can put out enough quality content without every wrestling organization being shut down, because it is a possibility. It is a possibility. And you heard that here first. The first wrestler in the United States that shows up with coronavirus, that shit gets shut down. So, and I don't care what company it is, if it's Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, it's happening. So, understand that is a possibility. But we, in terms of wrestlers, in terms of self-health, and everything else, being in the business that I am, which is wrestling, by the way, we are using loads of hand sanitizer and washing our hands consistently. I mean, things are a lot safer, practicing social distancing. We, at our last show, which I was not at because my doctor literally quarantined me before my surgery on Friday. So, because if I got sick, then I could not have surgery. Yay. So, I missed it, but essentially, even the chairs were further apart. It seems to me that we're looking at a lot of unknowns in the coming future. So I think that until that time where things start looking up and we've seen the absolute lowest of the lows downside of this, then, brace for impact, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. So be prepared, everybody. Just be prepared. In terms of wrestling, just as a whole and as a business, I know a lot of people have been struggling. I know wrestlers who are struggling to find work. I know a guy who is a wrestler and works at an Applebee's, and the Applebee's could be closing, which is his main source of income. I mean, the guy's worked there for almost 20 years. And if wrestling shuts down here in California and the Applebee's potentially shuts down, that's not good. And, I've known so many other people that have been affected by this and have had to postpone their shows, X, Y, and Z. I think that it's a problem. But there have been and are ways to help. There are various GoFundMes that are going right now for indie wrestlers. I believe Steven Larson and Solid Monster started a thing for all the people that were going to be at Wrestlemania, because they're out several hundred, if not thousands of dollars because of bookings and hotel reservations they can't get back. I mean, this is hitting the wrestling world pretty hard. And for it to be this time of year, WrestleMania, that stings that much more. But what I don't think people are thinking about, and this is the chess player in me thinking, 3 or 4 moves ahead. When this shit is over, what is the only thing anybody's going to want to do? Get the fuck out of their house. Okay? So, there's going to be a big upside when this is all over. I don't know how long that's going to take, how many weeks, months it's going to take, but flu season only lasts till about July. So, take with that information what you will, and the heat normally dissipates the cold. Viruses, under normal circumstances through the air, cannot survive in the air above, something like 50-something degrees Fahrenheit. So, which is something like 100 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, that's pretty hot, but here in California, we barely got any rain this winter. And yeah, it's looking like it's gonna be a hot one, but it may be a good year for a hot summer. As much as I hate to say it, for as much as we've had to deal with drought in the last few years, it's gonna be a good year to have a hot summer, because that means this can all go away. People can go back to work. People can do what they need to do in their everyday lives. But wrestling is getting hit hard. So if you want to help, there are plenty of ways to help. Go on Pro Wrestling Tees, buy some indie wrestling merch. You know, there are plenty of guys from various organizations that have their stuff on Pro Wrestling Tees. You know, anything is better than nothing. And I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but this is almost more like a charity drive than it is a commercial at this point. So let's try to, put the sprinkles on somebody's ice cream for once. 'Cause, professional wrestling needs it. And, the rest of the world just needs everybody to act like a bunch of normal human beings and not those who are fighting over toilet paper, which is... I get it, but man, just... No, I can't believe it. So, I'm Gary Supreme. And this is Sacktown Slam, and I am signing off.